anti-Asian racism, anti-Asian racism, anti-Asian racism.
Justin Trudeau is accusing the Conservatives of racism? This has to be big. This has to be for real. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist with the Toronto Sun, and I'm going to take you through how and why this happened. I mean, it's got to be serious if the Prime Minister is accusing the other side of racism, or maybe it's just Justin Trudeau's regular go-to insult when he doesn't like a question he's asked. We'll get to the details on all of this in a moment, and Candice Bergen's great response. You've got to see that, but let's step back a minute and discuss how this came about. On Wednesday, the Conservative Party was asking some very serious questions about security at Canada's National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg, and the fact that, well, according to several reports, including from not just me, not just other media outlets on the right, but the Globe and Mail wrote a story about how several people with ties to the Chinese military were granted access to a lab that deals in viruses and human pathogens like Ebola. Here is Conservative leader Erin O'Toole.
Can the Prime Minister tell this House how a person with deep connections to the Chinese military obtained a high-level Canadian security clearance? Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Now, Justin Trudeau didn't like those questions, but for O'Toole, he just kind of gave very bland answers. But as the question period went on, Conservative MPs kept asking him about it. Pierre-Paul Huss, Michael Barrett, Candice Bergen, and eventually Trudeau snapped when he was pressed because he wouldn't answer questions about someone with ties to the Chinese military having access to Canada's National Microbiology Lab and whether this was wise and should we be stopping it. He didn't like those questions, and so he went off on a rant about racism.
Mr. Speaker, yes, from the beginning of my career onwards, I have worked with many Chinese Canadians and indeed had fundraisers with them. And the rise in anti-Asian racism we're seeing over the past number of months should be of concern to everyone. And I would recommend that the members of the Conservative Party, in their zeal to make personal attacks, not start to push too far into intolerance towards Canadians of diverse origins.
Well, you know, when Justin Trudeau's calling you a racist, that you're probably over the target. You are hitting something close to home that he doesn't like. Conservative MP Candice Bergen, she was having none of this. She wasn't putting up with it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not surprised the Prime Minister just hurls insults of racism. It's his usual tactic. But, Mr. Speaker, I am not talking about Chinese Canadians. I am talking about a communist regime that nobody in the world trusts, except it would appear the Prime Minister of Canada. So I again will ask him about the communist regime and the military that supports that regime. Will he stop research cooperation with that military, seeing the danger they pose not only to Canada, but to the world? Yes or no?
And on and on and on Trudeau went, but again, not answering the questions. Look, we have people with ties to the People's Liberation Army, Academy of Medical Sciences, working at the National Microbiology Lab. Sure, they're gone now, but they were there for a long time. What did they take? What did they have access to? Should we be doing this again? These are legitimate questions. We've got two researchers from that microbiology lab, originally from China, who were fired, who were marched out and then fired a year later. Why? Because CSIS raised national security concerns about them. That the allegation is that they were giving over intellectual property to China, that they were providing materials to China that they shouldn't be. These are all serious questions to be asked, and serious questions deserve serious answers, not accusations of racism. Something is going wrong at the National Microbiology Lab, a very serious concern. This is the only lab of its kind in Canada, one of the few in the world that is able to handle the viruses and pathogens that, if released, could cause havoc like COVID-19, that could be used for biological weapons. We need to take these issues seriously. We need to make sure that serious questions get serious answers, not accusations of racism. Justin Trudeau has proven once again that he's not a serious man, that he doesn't deserve to lead a G7 country. Hopefully, one day soon, the voters will figure that out. Drop a comment down below. Make sure you share this on Facebook, on Twitter, email it to your Aunt May at Whitby. Get the word out.